What's going on, everybody? Give me a second here to, now that everything's live, to just adjust a few things and we will get going. I've already started a few of your questions so that I can start answering those. All right, let's see here. I just like to pull up the stream on another screen so I can see it and make sure everything's going the way it should. All right, I think we're in good shape. How's everybody doing? And a lot going on here. Yeah, and yes, for those asking, I did cut myself shaving. If you noticed that in yesterday's video, it's kind of healed up now a little bit, but I'm actually doing really well. I'm feeling good. I have a lot going on, but actually my stress level is a little less now than it was this time a week ago. Let me get to a couple of the questions that were asked in the chat ahead of time here. Steve, did I watch the Dr. Goldsworthy video? No, but I did see that on Discord, and it's on my list. I've got a long list of stuff because I'm recording about 3 reaction videos a day this coming week, as I'm going to Italy and then going to be moving. So I need to have kind of a backlog of content for the days that I won't be able to record. So I'm working on that. John says, Italy fun, moving not fun. John, you would know, you were with me the first time I was in Italy. So I'm actually, my sister and I are going to a lot of the same places that we went to when we were there in April. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we are going to a few places we didn't get to go to. So I'm excited about that too. I said I'd do Horrible Histories reactions on Patreon. Yeah, I will. But the thing is, I have to upload them directly to Patreon because I can't even upload them to YouTube. They immediately get blocked. So I just have to get caught up on some things so that I have the time to do that extra content just for you guys. And then I will certainly do that. But I do still plan to do that. So somebody mentioned earlier, I don't know if anybody saw the question, but somebody mentioned about Circleville, Ohio, and the Austrian painter. So for those who don't know, Circleville, Ohio, which is a city just south of Columbus, so it's in the central part of Ohio, south central, was founded by the Hitler family, not the same Hitler family, but same last name. And there's a bunch of them buried there, and there are streets like Hitler Street, so in Circleville, but definitely not the same people at all. Oh boy, here we go. Let's start off with a bang. If the Axis powers won World War II, what do you think the world would look like? Oh, I don't even want to think about that. Obviously, there'd be a lot of people, groups of people who would not exist anymore because there would be a systematic way in which they were just gotten rid of. So certain classes of people, certain disabilities, the elderly, the infirmed, different sexual orientations, those kinds of things just would not exist at all because they'd be executed or put to death right as soon as they were. What stream software webcam to use? Okay, so I have it's a Logitech 4K webcam that I use. Though right now I'm streaming through StreamYard. When I do live streams, I use StreamYard. And so it's only streaming at 1080. Not 4K, because 4K is just too bandwidth heavy. And I live out in the middle of nowhere, so the internet can kind of be spotty at times. But when I'm recording reaction videos, I'm using OBS, which is a free software. I record it and then I edit it with Wondershare Filmora. When I record, it's recording the audio from the video and then my microphone on separate tracks within the same video. So then when I drop it into Filmora, I can separate out those 2 tracks. So if I need to do any volume adjustment to make it even, I can do that. But Swedish Polymath, thank you for that. Do people in the U.S. really understand what Eastern Europe has gone through post-1918? You're referring to Europor comments. Your cousin Marcus insisted I ask you. I would say, by and large, the average American probably doesn't know much at all about what's going on in Eastern Europe other than what they see on the news. and the news is mainly going to focus on, like right now, Ukraine, and that's about it. And even that, honestly, I think like when I go to Europe and I turn on the news, there's a lot more coverage of things like what's going on in Ukraine in Europe than there is even here in the United States. I don't watch a lot of news these days, so honestly, I don't necessarily always see it all. Duck, why? I'm seeing it in the chat. What do I think about the Arab slave trade? Why do we never talk about it? I think for Americans, the reason that doesn't get talked about as much as, say, slavery that happened here in the United States is because it just isn't directly impacting Americans. So Americans often have ancestors who were enslaved, but not in the Arab slave trade. And that's true anywhere you go. I think a lot of people really only concern themselves with what affects them directly. And that's kind of a selfish viewpoint, but it's true. So I think that's the case. If I'm into car history at all, you suggest the channel Ed's Auto Reviews. I'm not personally, but I know a lot of people watching probably are. So there you go. Will I be playing the new indie game? Yeah. So when I move, and let me get you caught up on some stuff that's going on with me. For those who don't already know, I am moving, actually moving pretty soon. I've already bought the house. I actually already own the house, but the people who I bought the house off of still live there and aren't moving out until next week. And so the day they're moving out of the house is the day that I'm flying to London. My sister and I are doing, it's our first time ever doing a trip together, my sister and I. And we are flying to London for a day and then from there on to Italy. We're going to spend a week in Italy, going to Rome, Florence, and Pisa. And the day that we fly out of here is the day that the family I bought the house off of is moving. So I will not get the keys to the house until I get back. So I get back on a Sunday night. Monday morning, I'll get the keys. Tuesday is when the movers are coming to move everything. So there's a lot going on right now. But when I move, the reason I mention all of that is that I'm going to be setting up my Xbox for recording for the gaming channel. And I'm planning on doing 2 games on the Xbox on the gaming channel. So I'll be able to do gaming content a little more often. Indiana Jones is one of them. And the other one is going to be College Football 25. I'm going to be doing a Dynasty on there. So I'll be recording those. I've got all the equipment to be able to record my Xbox gameplay. I just haven't set it up yet because I'm going to be moving. So I'm not going to bother until I get moved so I can get everything set up again for that. Yeah, so that's happening. So I also hosted my cousins and I all get together for Christmas since tomorrow is the 2nd anniversary of my grandfather's death. He was biologically my grandfather, but he was my father. He was the dad who raised me. I'm the oldest grandchild in the family, but I was raised by my grandparents. And so now I'm kind of like the elder statesman of all the grandchildren in the family. And we used to always go to my grandparents' house for Christmas. Now that they're gone, I host it. So I hosted the family Christmas while also trying to pack for a move and also getting ready for going to Italy, but then also recording enough content that there's still going to be live. There's still going to be videos going up while I'm gone because I still have to make money so I can pay for this new house. So all of that is going on. I rent the house I'm in now, and I've been renting for almost 2 years. So it'll be nice to be in a house that I actually own. So that'll be really, really good, I think. All right, let me get caught up here. Did you and your family have a Merry Christmas? We did indeed. This was my first time since I've been a father, and my daughter was born in the summer of 2005, so 20 years. This was the first Christmas where I woke up Christmas morning and my kids weren't here. Last year, even though we were separated, my wife and I, we still did Christmas morning together. I spent the night at her house and woke up and did Christmas together. But obviously now we're divorced, so not doing that. But my kids came over in the afternoon and I made dinner for them and we opened presents. So we had a great time. Really, really, really good time. And I should mention this too. as I'm getting through all these questions and everything. One of my gifts to my 17-year-old son, he has dreamed for a long time of going over to the UK and seeing football, since he's been playing since he was 5 years old. And so we are doing a trip just for that, just the two of us. My other two kids have already taken trips, just me and them. My daughter came with me to France last year. My youngest, Eli, has gone with me on a bunch of Civil War trips. So Caleb and I are going over, and we're going to see 3 games in 5 days. So really excited about that. It's going to be a West Brom game at home. I think they're playing Blackburn, but I can't remember for sure. I think it's Blackburn. West Brom at home on February 12th. Then we're going to take a train up to Glasgow, and we're going to see Caledonian Braves, who are the team that I'm one of the many part owners of. And I've been talking to their media people, and we're going to do, some stuff with the media people for that, since I'm going to be there. And then we're going to, after the Caledonian Braves game, we're going to jump on a plane and fly to London. And on Sunday, I think it's the 16th, then we're going to watch Manchester United at Tottenham Hotspur in London. So pretty excited about all of that. And I am going to document all of it for VTH Extra. So yeah, we did have a great Christmas. Hey, love your work, especially Ripper Reaction. And I do have plans. One of the times I go to London this year, I'm not sure when that'll be, maybe in March. I've got a couple of days in London before I go to Egypt, where I want to do a video series, or at least one big video on Jack the Ripper from the location, but focused on the victims rather than on the killer. So I'm going to be planning to do that. I know very little, Connor, about the Khmer Rouge, just about in general, kind of the genocide and what was going on in Cambodia at that time. Have an interest in visiting Derry in Northern Ireland? Yes. In fact, there were a lot of people when I was in Belfast who told me I needed to go to Derry, and unfortunately, I just didn't have time. But I absolutely plan on going back to Ireland. Really looking forward to that at some point. So I'll definitely be hitting Derry, London, Derry at some point. Most epic brawls in history, most epic 1v1s in history by Serious History. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that reaction I did to Serious History yesterday. So I'll definitely be doing more of those. If by some miracle the Titanic replica was ever built, would I be interested? Yeah, no, I would have no moral objections to it at all. And I've gone on cruises, so I would love to go on the ship. That'd be very cool. Brian, thank you. You're curious about what I think about Trump and McCain's feud, especially what he said. Yeah, I thought that was a disgusting comment by Trump. John McCain's absolutely a hero. And you can disagree politically without being personal and ugly like that. I don't think there's any place for saying those kinds of things, because it not only is offensive to McCain and his family, but it's offensive to all of the other people who spent years as prisoners of war, not only in Vietnam, but in other wars as well. So no, I absolutely thought that was a disgusting comment to make. Entire Roman history summarized by overly sarcastic productions. I haven't done one of theirs for a while. I should take a look at that. Thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life as a Christian? It's a Wonderful Life is my all-time favorite movie. Absolutely love that movie. I love Jimmy Stewart. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. I haven't watched it for a few years, so I might need to watch that one sometime. Do you plan on doing any content on Eastern Front of World War II? Yeah, I do. There's so many channels that do a lot of World War II stuff, so I don't dive too heavily into it. I try to cover stuff people don't talk as much about, but I definitely would like to do some more. John Scott, I see your comment in the chat. I have been to the Alamo. In fact, I did a video there. And in fact, the very first video that was ever uploaded to Vlogging Through History was my vlog from the Alamo. I don't think it's live anymore just because the quality was so poor. Come a long way since then. I was doing things with my phone, and that was before stabilization software existed, and that was before you could do like 1080. So it was like a 720 resolution. And honestly, there's just not that much to see at the Alamo. But yes, I have been there. I did see it was being renovated. So my friend Marcel in the chat says, "How was Gladiator 2, and why was Sander wrong?" Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. Um, I finally watched Gladiator 2 last night. I streamed it at home, watched it on my 75-inch TV down in the basement, and I'll be honest, I loved it. I loved it. I've heard mixed reactions from people. Number one, I wasn't watching it planning on getting real history. Yes, some of those characters are real, like Caracalla and Gaeta and all those people, and Macrinus, even though the versions of them that they showed were like the timelines way off and things like that. Um, but as entertainment, it was fantastic, and that's the difference between Gladiator 2 and Napoleon. Napoleon was not only bad history; it wasn't even that entertaining. At least this was entertaining. I think Denzel Washington deserves an Oscar for that movie. He was fantastic. Yeah, if you're looking at it and talking about history, then you're not going to like it. And if you're looking at it and comparing it to the original, you might not like it either. The original Gladiator is a masterpiece. It's one of the all-time great movies. But as a standalone, kind of, even though it has a lot of connections and callbacks to the original, I liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I'll watch it again. And then I agree, Pancake Mix 100%. Denzel makes any movie great. There are a handful of actors that if they're in it, I will watch it. No matter what the movie is, I will watch it. Just because Denzel's in it, he's one of those people for sure. Pedro Pascal should have been Caracalla. That would have been interesting for sure. Okay, let's get back to some of these. I hope you enjoyed your gift from Belfast, the Thomas Ashe book. Yes, I did. I was reading some of it on the flight home, actually. Since your trip here, have there been figures from Irish Republican nationalist history you developed an interest in or began to admire? Well, obviously, one I've been studying a lot has been Eamon de Valera, just because he's so prominent, and of course, visiting his grave there. Michael Collins. I did go back and watch the movie Michael Collins, which I know is not perfect history, but yeah, so I did kind of go into a spiral of watching movies and stuff like that. I want to get a couple of really good books about that time period and learn more for sure. I definitely have a much better appreciation and understanding of what was going on, not only from visiting the historic sites, but also just from talking to you guys and hearing from people who live in Ireland today, whether it was in Belfast or Dublin or the other places I went. So, do I want my kids to share my views on the world and history? Yes and no. I want my kids, first and foremost, to be able to think for themselves. I certainly want to have input on helping them to understand what I've learned, but they need to make those decisions for themselves. You know, even to things like religion, when it comes to my faith as a Christian. I've raised my kids as Christians. They've been in church all their lives, but in the end, it needs to be theirs. That faith needs to be theirs, and they need to make a decision for themselves, whether or not they hold to that. I certainly want them to. And as a Christian, I certainly believe that that's what's in their best interest. But in the end, they have to make that choice. And the same, you know, my daughter and I have very different political views. And I'm okay with that because I know my daughter's intelligent and she knows the issues and she's studying for them. I've challenged her on some things when she's expressed views. I've said, well, wait a second, what about this? And we'll have conversations about it, and I'll try to influence that. But in the end, she is educated, she's intelligent, she'll make her decisions based on what she studies. So that's totally fine with me. Okay. I should react to dumbest dictator in history, Pol Pot. Interesting. Ooh, that might be a hot topic to do, but might be worth checking out. This donation is just a way to thank you for keeping my interest in history alive. I always enjoy listening to your facts about World War I and the Civil War. I appreciate that. And there's no greater compliment that people give me than to say that that I had some small role in kindling an interest or a love of history in them. That is, to me, just the best thing, and I greatly appreciate that. Just checking some messages here. Yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment. Carson, big fan of your videos, especially your presidential tier list videos. Just wondering if I've ever seen biographics video of Woodrow Wilson. I haven't. And if I haven't done a reaction to it, there's chances are I have not seen the video. I intentionally don't watch any video that I might eventually do a reaction to because I want those reactions to be my first time seeing the video. There are rare exceptions where there have been videos in the past that I've seen before I've reacted to. And if that's the case, I tell you up front that that's the case. Ohio is not playing in the Rose Bowl, Reed. It's Ohio State. They're two different things. Ohio University are the Bobcats. They're green and white. Ohio State is playing Oregon in the Rose Bowl. And I think if Ohio State play well, they can absolutely beat Oregon. They only lost to Oregon by 1 in the regular season, and that was at Oregon. And Ohio State made a lot of mistakes in that game and still nearly won. They absolutely can beat them, and I'll be rooting for them to do just that. Have I read Brady Carlson's Dead Presidents? No, I have not. By the way, love the Millard Fillmore icon there in your profile picture. A really fascinating book that I got years ago. That it was by Sarah Vowell. It's called Assassination Vacation. And it was basically her journey to the sites of the assassinations of the presidents and talking about them. It was pretty neat. The Battlefield Gods. Thank you for that. If the German Navy arrived at the Battle of Jutland, launched a kamikaze-style attack after the British Grand Fleet arrived, would the British have retreated? I think the Germans... If the Germans had been more aggressive, they would have won that battle. I think overall they did pretty well, but the problem was they lost enough that they were afraid to take their fleet out again. The British just had such a powerful navy that they could have kept on going. I think if the Germans had done more, they just would have lost more. Even if they would have inflicted more losses on the British could replace those losses where the Germans could not. So I don't know that long term it would have made any difference. Remember hearing your ancestry? I actually had a couple of ancestors hanged at Torrey Oak. A lot of your family's from there. You're related to Benjamin Cleveland. Oh boy. And Benjamin Cleveland, one of his subordinates was a captain named Benjamin Greer, who is my ancestor on my dad's side, and he was part of the group that captured Captain William Riddle, who is my mom's ancestor. So yeah. Do I think the Koreans will ever reunite? Koreas? Yes, I think it's possible, but I think something would have to happen to the ruling family in the North before that could be possible. I think you could see a scenario where the people under the dictator could rise up and overthrow him, and maybe something similar to what we saw with the Soviet Union back in the late 80s, early 90s. We could see something like that. Top 3 books I would recommend for the Civil War. I've seen that in the comments a couple of times. Bruce Catton's series is fantastic. I think Team of Rivals is great to look at the political situation and to look at as a focus on Lincoln. And then Grant's memoir. Did I ever read David Benioff's City of Thieves? So David Benioff, as in the writer for Game of Thrones, David Benioff, or Shawn Michaels' Us Conductors, 2 of the best historical fiction works? No, I'm not familiar with either of those. That's interesting. Can you make a video on the Philippine U.S. In World War II? Yeah, my friend JD does a great job of covering the Pacific in World War II, but yeah. Estella, how you doing? Thank you for that. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully we'll get to see you. Are you going, Estella, if you're still in the chat? I'll be watching the chat. Are you going to the Gettysburg Film Festival this year? Hopefully. Would love to see you again there this year. May 8th through 11th is the Gettysburg Film Festival. And holy cow, I know they haven't announced the people that are coming yet for the most part, but man, there's some really interesting plans. You thought last year was big. This year could be bigger. So I can't say more than that because I think they're still working on nailing down some of the potential guests who could be there for that and haven't announced them. So I don't want to give anything away, but JD and I are both a part of the kind of the planning crew for that. We have a Zoom meeting once a month with all the people planning the Gettysburg Film Festival. So, yeah, pretty excited about that. Okay, where are we at? Since it's set in the historic period right after World War II Japan, I have not seen Godzilla -1, but I've heard a lot of really great content or like comments on that. Like a lot of people have told me I need to check it out and that they thought it was really good. So it's definitely on my list. Maybe I'll try to watch it if it's streaming now. I'm sure it is. Maybe I'll watch it on the flight to London this Friday. Oh, interesting. Calvin, but did some genealogical research on branches of your family. You stumbled on a cousin who married a Lewis Maori born in Virginia, 1779. I believe, yes. I believe there is a connection, but that part of my family gets really dicey because my Maoris were originally Maur, M-A-U-R-E-R. They came from a little town called Guggenbach in Germany, southern Germany. Come to the United States in the early 1700s, settle in Pennsylvania, make their way down to Virginia to the Shenandoah Valley region, and then kind of further inland, inward into the mountains of Virginia, and then over to Kentucky. And by the time they make it to Kentucky, it's Maori. Although they pronounce it down there, they pronounce it Mari. So a lot of times it's spelled like M-A-U-R-Y. And so I think there's some distant connection to guys like Matthew Fontaine Maori. There's even a Maury County in Tennessee that's named after that family. So it gets really difficult to nail down exactly how they're all connected. I've had trouble with that. You talked about how you and the history guy and the name snafu. Have you ever considered doing a reaction to any of his videos? I haven't, and I'm not in the habit of publicly saying negative things about people, but let me just leave it at I don't plan to, and just leave it there. I think he does a great job with his videos, but no, I don't plan to. I've been a fan of the channel for a while, wondering if you ever take a trip to places like China and Japan. Yes, actually. Oh, and I love your username there, Ronan. Yeah, both are places I want to get to. China is probably the more immediate likelihood. Been doing these group trips. We've got the one coming up in Germany, Austria, Slovakia, and Czechia in April. I think another group trip, maybe 2026, is going to be China. We're working on that. Since you have the Discord now, have you thought about bringing people into calls on stream through Discord? No, I've never really. Is that something people do? I don't know exactly how that would work. I think it's probably more difficult to control what content appears when you have people like that, but maybe down the road that could be something we do. Brady would be interested in consulting for a graphic novel, working on one set in the Revolutionary War. If things calm down for me a little bit, perhaps. I get requests for that kind of thing every so often. So shoot me an email at vloggingthroughhistory@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you when I can. I wouldn't say yes just because I got so much going on right now, but it's possible. Anyway, speaking of, I see someone said, how does Gettysburg rank on favorite places to visit? I do love it, but it can be really commercialized and really busy. So there are other Civil War battlefields that I prefer to Gettysburg, even though Gettysburg is probably the historic site I've been to the most. Am I a fan of art? Yes, I am, actually. I do really love art. My favorite painting, without a doubt, has to be Scream by Edward Munch. I would say if I had a favorite style of painting, I love the Dutch paintings from like the 1600s. There's just something about the style that I really, really like a lot. But Scream, probably my favorite painting. I like Starry Night a lot too, by Van Gogh. That is Van Gogh, isn't it? Yeah. All right. With Ronald Reagan, an actor turned politician, what are other old school actors who would have made a good president? I think Charlton Heston probably would have. Jimmy Stewart would have been really interesting. One of my favorite Jimmy Stewart movies is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So seeing him in kind of that political role there has always been interesting to me. Someone said, do I think that Trump would end the Russo-Ukrainian war? Well, it's not up to him. He's not in control of either of those countries. I don't. I hope that he doesn't pressure Ukraine to end the war by giving up territory to Russia. I don't think that that should be an option. But we'll see. Any recommended authors for Civil War history? Yeah, Shelby Foote's great as long as you understand he grew up in a Southern lost cause perspective. I don't think he's a lost causer, but he certainly has that bias. He's not a lost causer from the standpoint he doesn't think that somehow the South was noble and could have won the war. Like he holds no illusions about that, but he does come at it from that perspective. But he's still a really great storyteller. Bruce Catton's fantastic. James McPherson writes some really good Civil War books. Let's see. How do I think Henry Ford presidency? Oh, good Lord. I hope not. He did run for Senate in Michigan. No, I'm glad he got nowhere near the presidency. He would have been another Woodrow Wilson as far as I'm concerned. 12 Years a Slave, I have not seen yet, but I've heard it's powerful and definitely worth a watch. Does the English language have German origins? Yes, English is a Germanic language. English, Dutch, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Icelandic, they're all Germanic languages. But yeah, I mean, English has other influence as well, French heavily, but definitely it's a Germanic language. I'm trying, so you'll notice I'm doing the super chats, but I'm also watching the live chat so that I can at least catch some of what's going on in the non-super chats as well. So that's why I'm kind of not showing those on the screen, but trying to answer some of them. Have I ever seen Then There Were Giants? I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it yet. Something worth checking out sometime. E. Ulmer, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Just added 2 misconceptions to Patreon. Okay, I'll check those out. Did I know the U.S.? Yeah, helicopters were developed in World War II. They were used a little bit at the end, used much more extensively in Korea. But yeah, they did exist then. Actually, I think helicopters were developed in the 30s, but they weren't mass produced for World War II. Who's my favorite Premier League club? I don't have one since my team's in the championship at West Brom. But if I had to choose a Premier League club right now, I kind of like of the big 6, I probably like Liverpool, only because I really like some of the players. I see a lot of videos of them. I know all teams do this and all players do stuff where they visit sick kids in the hospital and do those kinds of things. But it seems like some of the Liverpool players, guys like Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, are just fantastic in terms of how they represent the club in the community. And so I've really kind of been drawn to that. And I'm glad to see Liverpool doing well and looking like they might be the favorites to win this year. I like Chelsea's uniforms a lot, but I like their colors anyway. All right, let's see. Where are we at? I haven't seen much on your channel, so I was wondering if you had any plans to react to Canadian military history. Yeah, so I cover some Canadian military history on stories of the Great War. So, I've done some, like I did a video on the Canadians at Passchendaele, at the Canadian National Memorial there. I visited Newfoundland Memorial Park and did a video on the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, which of course wasn't part of Canada during the First World War, but is now. Someone said, Scouse Bozo says, glad to see that Chris likes the correct football team. Rob's upset with me. Liverpool, Chelsea's uniforms. I taught you better than that. Rob's a Fulham fan, and he does photography for Fulham. So, I do have a Fulham jersey that I got. My very first game I ever attended in the UK was at Craven Cottage. It was Spurs at Fulham. Okay, Raziel's Legacy. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. MC Binks. I'm studying in Rome this semester and also going to Spurs Man U. Really? Very cool. Happy to buy you and your son a drink if I see you there. Oh, yeah, actually, my son would be old enough to drink there, at least with a meal when we're there. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a big stadium, but, when I'm posting stuff, I don't know if you're on Instagram, but if you see me posting stuff on Instagram while we're over there, shoot me a message or even email me. And we'll try to connect. We can at least say hi. As a Man United fan, I am shocked and appalled, Jammy Jam Jars says. Sorry about that. My son's a Man United fan too. But actually, also, my son's been getting into Brentford lately. He asked me to get him a Brentford hoodie for Christmas, so I did. So I tried to find Brentford and Man United game, but they're not going to be playing at any point that we'd be able to go there. So they actually play. I'll be in Europe when Brentford and Man United play, but I'll be over in Central Europe for the group tour. You recently said Hollywood should make a movie about St. Olga's revenge on the Drevlians. Any other lesser-known events that should be adapted? Oh, there's a ton of fantastic stories. The Battle of Castle Itter should absolutely be a movie where you have the Americans and the French and German Wehrmacht soldiers fighting side by side against the SS. That'd be an awesome movie. I don't know why that hasn't been made yet. Okay. Will I react to Extra History's Joan of Arc series? Absolutely, at some point. I love Extra History, and I think Joan of Arc is a perfect story to cover. Love your channel. Emo Omer, thank you. Big fan of Civil War history and U.S. presidents. Right up my alley. Yeah. You live in the U.K. now, but lived in the U.S. most of your life. Man, you are like living the dream. You are interested in the same history that I'm interested in, and you live in the U.K., which I'd love to live in, but only if my kids lived there too. I love UK history. I love UK culture. I love everything about it. And of course, most of my own family history runs through there. So, how do I feel about somebody, before I get to this question on the screen, how do I feel about Carlos Corberán leaving West Brom for Valencia? I hate it, but I'm fine with it. And what I mean is I hate it because I love Carlos Corberán. I think he's a great coach. I was a little tired of every single time any other job opened up, him being talked about for it, but I can't fault the guy for wanting to go home and manage his hometown club. He's from Valencia. So I'm happy for him that he gets to go home and do his hometown club, but I hate it for us. And it didn't go so well in our first match without him. Okay. One of my favorite things to watch is different portrayals of Mark Antony's funeral speech and Julius Caesar. Have you a favorite? I don't know if I have a favorite. I would love to have seen it portrayed in HBO's Rome, but they didn't show it because I think James Purefoy as Antony is so incredible. He's my favorite thing about one of my all-time favorite TV shows. I thought Kieran Hines was awesome as Caesar, but James Purefoy steals every scene he's in as Mark Antony. I love it, love it, love it. I wish they would have shown that scene. I mean, there were a lot of great performances in HBO's Rome. Ray Stevenson, of course, is phenomenal in that. Man, I wish we would have gotten like 5 or 6 seasons of that show. But as someone else put it, HBO's Rome walked so that Game of Thrones could run. Game of Thrones, Rome was the most expensive TV show of all time when it was made, at a time when expensive TV shows weren't being made for the most part. I mean, you had a few like Band of Brothers and stuff like that, but now with Game of Thrones being as successful as it was, now companies are putting big money into TV shows. And now really TV shows, I mean, the quality is up there with movies, and in many cases better than movies. Okay. Am I an Age of Empires fan? Yeah, and actually Mr. Terry and I have talked about maybe doing some like live streaming where we play each other in Age of Empires at some point. Why do I think that Indian Wars or any of the wars ended and that the tribal nations were conquered and defeated by the U.S.? I think eventually the U.S. just took over. I mean, westward expansion was inevitable anyway because of manifest destiny. But once the transcontinental railroad was completed and it made mass migration west easier, it was a numbers game, and the Native American tribes just got overwhelmed by numbers. Okay. Somebody asked earlier too how many states I've been to. I've been to 48 states. The only two I haven't been to are Utah and Rhode Island. And I'm really hoping, if I play my cards right, that I can hit both of them this year. I'm going to go to Salt Lake City and do some research at the Family History Library. So that'll knock off Salt Lake City and get me Utah. And then I want to get over to Rhode Island at some point this year too. So hopefully I'll do that. Thoughts on Christopher Nolan to direct an adaptation of Homer's Odyssey? Well, I've been hearing all kinds of things about the Odyssey lately because my kids are really into Epic, the musical, which is fantastic, by the way, if you're into musical. It's just a bunch of concept albums, so it's not like a stage musical yet, but it's great, and it's based on Homer's Odyssey. Echo Vision, first time catching me live on your birthday too. Awesome. Happy birthday. Okay. With the current political chaos in France, do I think them having a constitutional monarchy would help? It would help, but they're never going to do it. I like the stability of constitutional monarchy, but France had the chance to do that and they chose not to. So, Mission 15. The world is hot right now, yeah, but a U.S. war seems unlikely. Fingers crossed. I think the U.S. could potentially be in for its longest peace. I hope so. I hope for the world's sake we can all, get some of these major conflicts dealt with and try to live at peace. But unfortunately, the nature of humanity has never been peace. Okay, let's see. Recommend David McCulloch's 2-part biography on. Okay, very cool. David McCulloch's fantastic author. I like him a lot. Also, General Tom Barry's memoir, Guerrilla Days. Interesting. Just wishing all a Merry Christmas, New Year's Gap Week. Thank you, Empress Mermaid. I appreciate that. Thoughts on Rod Serling, the World War II vet, acclaimed screenwriter, creator of Twilight Zone. Yep. Oh, he was born 100 years ago on Christmas Day. Very cool. My great-grandfather was also born on Christmas Day, 1900. I loved the Twilight Zone growing up. Man, nothing freaked me out more than that one with first it was William Shatner, but then they did a remake of it when I was younger. There's something on the wing, something. Oh my gosh, that freaked me out so much. Favorite aspect of history, Liam? First of all, yeah, American Nerd, Coen Brothers movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is inspired by the Odyssey. But my favorite historical topics that I'm studying, it changes. There are certain few that are always going to be there. Civil War, presidential history, World War I. But right now I'm really into Roman history, probably because I'm going to Italy again. Napoleonic Wars. I'm going to be making my first trip to a Napoleonic War battlefield in 2025. So I'm excited about that. I'm going in late November I'm going to Austerlitz for the 220th anniversary of Austerlitz for the reenactment. So I will be filming all of that too. Wolfman, am I still studying German? Not actively, but when I can. Right now I've been brushing up on my Italian, and I'm going to be working on Arabic in planning for my trip to Egypt in early March. Okay. Thoughts on the Browns fans cheering Watson Achilles tear? I hate seeing anybody get injured, but I understand it. He should have been benched long before he got hurt. People were cheering because of how awful he was playing and the club's unwillingness to bench him. So they weren't necessarily cheering the injury. They were cheering the fact that he wouldn't be playing quarterback anymore for the rest of the season. Ever heard the Christian 80s? Oh, yeah, I know Stryper. I know Stryper real well. To Hell with the Devil. What's the other one? Honesty, I think, was a song that they did. Razor Fist made a video about their history. Awesome. Razor Fist, that interesting. I don't know if I could cover Razor Fist again, but interesting. Jim, yes, my Egypt trip was open to the public, but it's been sold out for like 8 months. It's not until March, but it's sold out like a year before the trip. And right now, the only group tour that's open that has spots available that we're doing coming up is the links in the description. It's Berlin, Dresden, Bratislava, Prague, Vienna. And you can still reserve that. In fact, it'll be open till the first week of February, and we need to book at least 2 more people on that trip, or we're going to have to cancel it because there's a minimum number. And right now we have 12, and we have to have at least 14 to be able to make that trip happen. So, okay, where are we at? Much love from New Brunswick, Canada. I appreciate that. So City of Thieves, let me go back for a second. Croak ZYY. I'll leave yours up for just a second while I'm catching up on some other stuff. Liam, yeah, Lakeview Cemetery is fantastic. Do I support HR? You're asking a lot of very interesting and provocative questions there. Jim, I wish I could make room for one more in Egypt. I've had several people who have already gone on a waiting list, but at this point, we're past the point where new people can even book it anyway. So even if somebody was no longer able to go, I wouldn't be able to add a replacement because we're past the deadline for that. But separation of church and state, some HR asked me about, do I support? I guess it depends entirely on your definition of that. First of all, separation of church and state is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution or in the Bill of Rights. That phrase came from Thomas Jefferson, and he had a very different view on what that is than what was intended. The way I view it is the amendment was meant to keep the government from endorsing a specific state religion like the English have with the Church of England, and to keep the government out of religion, not the other way around. So in other words, from the standpoint, like, do I, for example, oppose, I grew up in a public school, where we did the Lord's Prayer every morning on the announcements. During the morning announcements, a student led the Lord's Prayer in a public school. And that actually continued until about 10 or 12 years ago at that school because somebody complained about it. Do I think that is a violation of the Constitution? No, I don't. I just don't. You're not forcing anybody to adhere to that religion. The freedom of religion does not mean freedom from religion. It doesn't mean that I am forced to keep religion out of anything at the risk of offending people who might not follow that religion. I hate, for example, that we have so much trouble with kids in their valedictorian speeches not being able to mention their faith because somebody thinks it's a violation of the separation of church and state. And it's absolutely ridiculous to think that. It's not. If a Muslim kid was doing their valedictorian speech and they wanted to give praise to Allah in their speech, they should be able to do that. You know, if an atheist wanted to mention in their speech their belief that there is nothing but this world and you have to make everything for yourself, they should be allowed to do that. To me, that's not what that was ever intended to be. So Eli, I don't agree that freedom of religion includes freedom from religion. You know, there's no, you know, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free practice thereof. And you know what? The free practice of religion means that occasionally people who don't adhere to that religion are going to be exposed to it. And they're going to be in scenarios. When I'm in Egypt, I'm going to be hearing the Muslim call to prayer. And I'm going to be there during Ramadan. And I should not have any expectation to be protected from being exposed to Islam when I'm in Egypt, because that's the faith that most of the people in that country have. And I expect that, and that's okay. And I don't understand why people feel like they have to be offended by a religion they don't agree with. Just don't understand. Anyway, that's enough about that. So the City of Thieves tells the story about the siege of Leningrad, while Us Conductors is a really thrilling take on the life of Soviet inventor Lev Terman. Interesting. That actually sounds really cool. Siege of Leningrad, something I don't think gets talked about nearly enough, especially because everybody likes to focus on Stalingrad and what was going on there. Siege of Leningrad was a big deal, and it was a big humanitarian crisis. Okay. Been reading about John Quincy Adams' presidency. I feel Congress held him back. That's fair. Would have been more successful with a more supportive Congress. Yeah, that's certainly possible, but that you could say that about so many presidents. Imagine how much more Ronald Reagan would have accomplished with a Republican Congress, which he never had. Imagine how much more. I mean, you could say that about, I'm trying to think of other presidents who had opposite control of Congress for their entire term. Or imagine how much less successful a president would have been without control of Congress. Just think of what, for example, Abraham Lincoln would have been able to not do if he had a Democratic Congress. He wouldn't have been able to even prosecute the Civil War with a Democratic Congress. Who have I voted for in every election? Okay, if we're talking about president, 96 was my first election. I voted for Ross Perot. 2000 and 2004, I voted for George W. Bush. 2008, I voted for John McCain. 2012, I voted for Mitt Romney. 2016, don't think I voted for president. I voted for Kasich in the primary in 2016, but I did not vote for president. In fact, I haven't voted for president in the last 3 elections. So yeah, the last time I voted for a presidential candidate in a presidential race was 2012 when I voted for Mitt Romney. I'm making a biographical film about a historical figure. Chris Farley will play the titular character. Who do you make the movie about? Oh my gosh. Louis the 16th. No, Louis the 18th. Chris Farley could be Louis the 18th. I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. No, I have never said that I voted for Donald Trump. Never have. Most important minor battle of the Civil War. I mean, it's minor from the standpoint of the number of troops involved in casualties, but it's still pretty major. Champion Hill. Kaiser Pena, Romney over Trump is crazy. Romney never ran against Trump. So, at least I don't remember that. I mean, he might have for a nomination, but he was the nominee in 2012. So, do I think Bernie could have beaten Trump in 2016? No, I don't think he could have. I think he would have been a better president than to a lot of people, but I think Bernie's support was less broad than Clinton's. It was more fervent than Clinton's, but I still think Trump would have beaten Bernie. What are your thoughts on the failed Camden expedition of the Red River campaign? There were a lot of failed campaigns, especially in those smaller campaigns like that. I don't think they had any long-term impacts on the war. Mad Scientist, I keep seeing you. Yes, I have a phone number, but no, I'm not giving it to you. You can email me, vloggingthroughhistory@gmail.com. Do I think John J. Pershing could have become U.S. president like Grant and Eisenhower did? I think he certainly could have if he had chosen to run. He certainly probably would have had a good chance. Certainly would have had a good chance to win, I think. How do I think he would have done? I don't know. It's hard to say because I would have said the same thing about Eisenhower. If Eisenhower hadn't become president, it's harder to say how he would have done. Thoughts on far-right activists like Nick Fuentes? Yeah, I could see some parallels with the Sons of Liberty. Obviously, we look back on the Sons of Liberty differently now because their cause was ultimately successful and because it was part of independence. But yeah, I can definitely see some similarities there. Have I seen The Chosen? Yes, and I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love The Chosen. I love everything about it. Huge fan. In fact, if you watch in some previous videos, you may occasionally see me wearing a Chosen shirt. I have a blue T-shirt that says, what's the one say? It says, get used to different. And I've worn that in a couple of the reaction videos that I've done. Do I think Henry Ford would have tried to ally with Hitler? If he would have tried, he would have been unsuccessful. I don't think the U.S. would have been willing to go that far. He would not have gotten congressional support for that. But I can see him doing his level best to keep the U.S. neutral during World War II, especially less likely Hitler declares war on a United States as led by a President Henry Ford. And the U.S., even if it was attacked by Japan, might have stayed out of the war in Europe. Okay, let's see where we're at. Who is the best potential president who never ran? Okay, wow. That's a great question. Scouse Bozo, I'm honestly not entirely sure I could remember how I voted in every primary election. This year I voted for Nikki Haley in the primary. Wow. I'd love to hear the people in the chat answer that question. The best potential president who never ran, because there's a lot of people who even ran for the primary and lost, let alone those who ran and didn't get elected. Hamilton? Okay. Yeah, Cameron, I like that answer. I would love to have seen a President Hamilton. I don't know if it would have been good or bad for the country. Seward ran. You can't say Seward because Seward did run for president. He just didn't get the nomination. Colin Powell. Oh, good choice. Colin Powell's a really good answer. I like that too. Actually, I was just having a conversation the other day with somebody who said they really wish Colin Powell would have run for president. I think he would have been a good president. Yeah, I think Colin Powell's a really good answer. John Jay. Oh, there you go. One of the founding fathers people forget about. Saddest historical movie you've seen? A lot say Schindler's List. United 93. Yeah, that's a good answer for that. Have to think about that one a little bit. I think Daniel Webster ran too. Marstar Miller. I'm pretty sure Daniel Webster ran for president. Let me see. Fairly certain he did. Yeah, he ran in 1836. Daniel Webster. And Henry Clay ran a bunch of times. Would I consider myself a neoconservative? I don't know what that means. So maybe. Sad historical movie. I mean, anything related to World War I is really sad to me. I'd have to think about that one a little bit. Do I plan on visiting Durham? I would love to. I'd love to go to Durham Cathedral. I've been in Durham. I passed through Durham on a train on my way from London to Edinburgh, or actually from London to York. So I've seen Durham out the window of a train. But yeah, I would love to visit there. Why is California better than Ohio? It's not. So there's your answer. Favorite battle to study for you at Stalingrad or the Battle of the Atlantic? The Somme. The Somme is my favorite battle to study for sure. My thoughts on Pakistan. I don't know enough about Pakistan to really give a good answer to that. I think there's some amazing people from Pakistan. But honestly, I just don't know that much about it. Cameron, I have visited West Point. Did a video there from the cemetery at West Point. When am I visiting Australia? It's definitely on my bucket list. I want to go to Australia and also New Zealand. I don't age at all. Spill the beans. My hair is too short, or well, you can still see some of it, but it's very gray, and my hairline is not where it used to be, and my metabolism is not what it's used to be. The more healthy I eat, the less I seem to be able to lose weight. Just brutal. So yeah, I've aged, but thank you. I appreciate the compliment. If you would have asked me when I was 20, if I would be happy with looking like this at 47, I would say yes. So I can't complain. Would I visit Jerusalem one day if things calm down over there a little bit? I really want to visit Jerusalem big time. Theodore, would I vote for J.D. Vance in 2028 if he's the nominee? Ask me in 2028, because we've got 4 years of Vance as a vice president to see, and then, of course, to hear him. I'd like to hear him run on his own and talk about what he wants to do without it being connected to Trump. I think Vance is going to make a very formidable candidate. I could see myself voting for him, but let's wait and see. And yes, American Nerd, I am 47. I'll be 48 in 2025. Marstar Miller, thank you. I appreciate that. When am I visiting Italy? I'm leaving Friday. I'll be arriving in Italy on a week from tomorrow, so next Sunday. I'll be in Rome, Florence, and Pisa, going with my sister for a week. In Acts 5, 1 through 11, do I think Ananias and Sapphira deserved to die? You think Peter overreacted? I can see that. But it's kind of an Old Testament God thing going on there. I mean, no. Do I think they deserved to die? No, but not up to me. I think there's probably more to that story than what we're told in Acts. But yeah, Professor Watt makes a good point. Peter didn't do it. I mean, if God hadn't allowed it, Peter wasn't completely just Peter that made that happen. Mr. Snowman, silly question, but would you consider West Virginia as part of the South? Even the South is so different from one place to the next. I think that Southern and Southeastern Ohio, West Virginia and Kentucky are kind of a very unique, that Appalachian culture. That also is in Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina, that is very, very different than, say, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, or Jacksonville, Florida. So I think the South is not in and of itself one big culture. But my people come from Appalachia, and there's a very unique culture in Appalachia. Got you back into history and learning about World War I. Very cool. Do I have a lisp in newer videos? Yes, I do. Some dental work done. and had a worsening underbite that I needed to get some work to correct. So it was affecting my jaw, and I was dealing with a lot of jaw issues because of my underbite. So I'm adjusting to that work, and you'll notice it's getting less and less all the time. It's mostly on my S's, but it's getting better all the time. I also kept biting my lip the first time I ate after I had the work done. Okay, Hollywood often seems to forget how religious and introspective medieval society was. Agree? Game of Thrones had the right balance. Yeah, and I think you see a lot of that in, like we were talking about HBO's Rome earlier. The first couple of episodes, especially, they focus very heavily on showing how religious many Romans were. Now, they obviously different gods, but you see how much religion was a part of everything they did. And I thought they did a good job of portraying that. Should Canada join the US? Nah. More iconic scene than Caesar crossing the Rubicon. I think probably when it actually happened, it was probably, by our standards, pretty anticlimactic. In fact, if you watch HBO's Rome, I love how downplayed that scene is. Like, he rides up to the Rubicon, kind of looks for a minute, and then he just rides across. Like, there's no him making a big announcement about it or anything like that. He just does it. Merry Christmas from Austria. Why is the most impressive history? What is the most impressive history place you have visited? Most impressive. St. Peter's in Rome and in the Vatican was amazing. I think the coolest historic site I visited is Pompeii. Pompeii blew my mind. It was incredible. I loved Pompeii, and I want to go back because I need so much more time there. I was only there for about 5 hours, and I barely saw anything. Pompeii was absolutely incredible. What else? Les Invalides, where Napoleon is buried, is really, really cool. Some of the palaces, Vienna, the history in Vienna. Oh my gosh, the museum, the two museums in Vienna. One is the Royal Treasury, where they have like all the regalia of the Holy Roman Empire. And then the Military History Museum, where they've got like flags that were captured from the Ottomans during the siege of Vienna in 1683. They've got all this Napoleonic War stuff there. Like, I think they had Schwarzenberg's uniform. And then you have like the car that Franz Ferdinand was in when he was assassinated, and his uniform with the bullet hole in the neck and the blood stain. Oh my gosh, that was amazing history. And I can't wait to go back to those places. Vesuvius blew Pompeii's mind. Actually, it buried Pompeii's mind. Yeah. Did I ever watch House of Cards? Yes, and I thought it was really good. I haven't seen the British version. I've only seen the American one. I loved Kevin Spacey in that. I thought he was really good. John Reedy says the Abbey at Monte Cassino. Yeah, the ride to the Abbey was not my favorite thing. But the Abbey itself, the Monte Cassino Abbey was amazing. And all the collection they had in that museum. Wow. Oh, that was so cool. That whole Italy trip was that's why I'm going back to Italy with my sister. It was amazing. I've not visited HMS Victory, Seamus. I really want to, though. John Reedy, I hated that ride. The ride up to the Monte Cassino Abbey was up a mountain road that went around these curves that you probably should take at about 20 miles an hour. And the guy was going 50. It was like, it's one of those few times in my life I've genuinely feared for my life. Which video you've reacted to would you consider to have been the worst or most harrowing experience or subject matter for you? I think anything related to the Holocaust. What else? I have to think about this a little bit. I've done so many. Professor what? Go to the Schaefer house? Yeah, right. Been there, done that. Oh my gosh, that's harrowing as well. I mean, the Holocaust is one. Living through anything related to the plague, like the Black Death, would have been harrowing for sure. Being in some of the cities, like a city like Leningrad when it was under siege, places like that. Would I have been pro or anti-Caesar? Probably pro. More historical photos and videos. Yes, I do want to do more videos about that. Tips for visiting Ireland. See the cities, but get out of the cities. Take a tour. Like go on like a day tour. I did one that was like 35 euros for a tour out of Dublin for the day. We went to Glendalough and Kilkenny, and it was amazing. And it's such a different part of Ireland than you can otherwise get. And you don't have to worry about things like having a car or paying to park or any of those kinds of things. So pay for those day tours and get out into the country. I want to get down to some places like Cove and Cork and Galway, some of those places I haven't been to yet. Are you a fan of Star Wars? Yes, I am. I didn't think the sequels were bad. I think episode 3 of the prequels was fantastic. But probably the original. But also, you know what? I really, really like Rogue One. I think Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars movies. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow, Dick Kurtz? It's depends on what you mean, an African or European swallow. And that is the only correct answer to that question. Okay. This is unrelated. Do I know Red Dead Redemption? I have played it. I have Red Dead Redemption 2, and I've had a lot of people ask me to do a gameplay of that on my gaming channel. I don't know if I have time for that, but I do like playing it. Any works of fiction that help strengthen your faith? Ascendance of a Bookworm got me. It's a good one, I think. I love C.S. Lewis. The Screw Tape Letters. I love the Screw Tape Letters. That's really good. So I would say that one. Late Christmas greetings from the Netherlands. Thank you. Do I think the Glorious Revolution was the right choice for the future of Great Britain? Maybe. I mean, if you look at the ramifications of the Glorious Revolution, that leads to, I guess it depends on who you ask. If you ask people in Scotland, they would say no, because the Glorious Revolution led eventually to the Highland clearances and things like that, which has been devastating for Scotland. But I don't know. I don't like that they excluded all the Catholics from the line of succession. So I guess it depends on who you ask to answer that question. Helen, the Scottish Llama, I'd love to see the Edinburgh sites for McRae's Battalion. McRae's Battalion, if you haven't seen it, I did a video on them. They had a lot of footballers in McRae's Battalion. I would love to get to some of that. What accent is the toughest for me to understand in English? Geordie. It's got to be the Geordie accent. Okay, let's get back to some of these. Gene White, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Joe, how's it going? Thank you. What's my opinion of the near future for our country? I think we're going to be okay. I think when you have an election, both sides tried to spin the other side as being potentially the worst thing that ever happened to America and to the world. I think a lot of the worst things that people are saying about what's going to happen under Trump are overblown, just as they were true when people said them about Joe Biden, when people said them about Obama. I don't think it's going to be nearly that bad one way or the other, but we'll see, right? I think we'll see. I hope I'm right about that. Bahadir, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you for that. Longtime follower from Turkey. Very cool. Just wanted to wave a big hi. I really want to invite you for a Gallipoli tour in Turkey, where I will be there. I would love to get to Gallipoli, and I'd love to see Istanbul. That is on my bucket list for sure. And if I make plans for that trip, I will definitely announce it so that we have a chance to connect. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to get there. Most important U.S. election in history, 1860. For sure. Everybody says every election is the most important in our history, but 1860 really was. 1860 and 1788, which wasn't really an election because it was an acclamation of George Washington. I mispronounced Constantinople. Could Ron Paul have won an election if he was a Republican nominee? No, I don't think so. But then again, I didn't think that Donald Trump could win if he was the Republican nominee. So who knows? Do I like Cormac McCarthy books? I am not familiar with Cormac McCarthy, actually. What historical figure who deserves a biopic? Grant. 100% Grant. If you like Twilight Zone, you should watch Rod Serling's TV movie Carol for Another Christmas. Interesting. A heartless isolationist is shown to not turn his back on the world. Very cool. I haven't been to any Long Island aviation museums, and I don't know who Dr. Roy Casagrande is. Okay, let's see. If the Confederate States won, how would the nation look today? Man. I think they'd eventually have outlawed slavery in another generation. I think they would have looked to expand south, which would have affected Mexico and the Caribbean. I think it would have had a big impact on foreign policy and the potential for what happens in World War I and things of that nature. I think world history looks different if that happens. John, thank you for becoming a member. Thoughts on Ron Paul? I think he makes a lot of great points. I think he also has a lot of crazy points. Like a lot of people, I guess. Mill Spring. Check. John, I want to get to the Mill Spring battlefield in the worst way because I'm a huge James Garfield fan. I had several ancestors who fought at Mill Spring. Yorktown blew up the whole Peninsula campaign. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yorktown, and he's referring to the Peninsula campaign of the Civil War, where John Magruder basically held back McClellan's entire army with a couple of Confederates and a bunch of logs. South Mountain caused McClellan to be cautious again. Those are all great answers to that. Been watching since 2021, got you into studying your family history more. You're Somali American, and your descendants are. So if you're Somali American, just curious, you're not from Columbus, are you? Do you live in Ohio? Because I know there's a big Somali American population in the Columbus area. Who would I cast as Grant? Actually, the guy who played Grant in the History Channel miniseries was fantastic. He's a British actor. I don't know his name, but I thought he was perfect as Grant. Who do I think will win the Prem and the Champions League? I think Liverpool's going to win the Premier League. Champions League. Wow, that's hard to say. Maybe Barcelona. Okay. I don't even know how to answer this. Who would win an oiled up twerk off, Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass? Dude, I don't know. I appreciate the donation, but dang, I don't even want to think about that. How much do I think psychopaths, narcissists, and other monsters have influenced history and currently influence society? I mean, yeah, there certainly are those. I mean, Donald Trump's definitely a narcissist, but a lot of politicians are narcissists. Psychopaths, I don't know if we've had many of those that have influenced history in a significant way, other than maybe as in terms of committing crimes that have affected history. Did my daughter cry after Harris lost? Actually, you know what? A couple of days before the election, when it became apparent there was a good chance Trump would win, she was concerned. And she was pretty emotional about it. But I think by the night of the election, she kind of had a more balanced view of it. And I tried to talk to her about that. And I explained to her, I said, listen, you know, there have been elections in history where I've been really upset about the outcome of the election. And then as I got older and I got wiser, I don't care any less about politics, but I don't tie my happiness and my emotional well-being so closely to the results of elections like I used to. And so I tried to help her to understand that, there are going to be times that the person you want to win is going to lose. And there are going to be times that the person you want to win is going to win. And life goes on. And I think she handled it really, really well. Okay. Video on Pea Ridge. I'd like to get to Pea Ridge sometime and maybe do something from the site. Who's my favorite president to study? Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt. Fascinating figures, both of them, for very different reasons. Thoughts on Elon Musk's influence in government? Is it similar to Hearst or Pulitzer? Yeah, there have always been Elon Musks. There have always been wealthy and influential people who have had an undue influence on politics because of their wealth and because of their connections. Every generation has had an Elon Musk. This is no different. We can complain about it and say that it's unfair, but unfortunately, that is the reality of politics. Am I an iconoclast, iconoclude, Emil, Premil, or post-mill? You know what? I care a whole lot less about those things than most people do, so I would say I don't identify as any of them. So, for example, with millennialism, when it comes to theology, I don't care. I really don't. It doesn't impact my life. And I would rather focus on being a follower of Christ and living as Jesus did than worrying about how the world's going to end. I think when you overly focus on end times theology, it leads to cults. A lot of cults are heavily focused on end times theology. I just don't care that much. However it happens, I trust that God knows what he's doing. Battle of Austerlitz's Fortress as a movie. Yes, that would be excellent. I think that would be fantastic. The Attack of the Dead Men. I would love to see that. The Ring Man. Where do I get my news from? The internet. I don't watch TV news. I just can't. I can't do it. It impacts my happiness too much to get dragged down into that stuff. So I just don't focus on. I used to watch it all the time, and I can't anymore. So I'll go to news aggregate sites like Drudge Report, but then I'll browse CNN and Fox News and MSNBC's websites and just kind of look at the headlines and see what's going on in the world. I would say probably when there's a breaking news story, I go to Twitter because usually you see a lot more there than what's being reported in the news. So this is similar to what was asked a few minutes ago. Historically, does this trend lead to anything? I think that the money has a big impact on who gets into a position to be elected in the first place. But I'm not entirely sure that it has a huge impact on presidential politics once a president gets into office. I don't know. What Bible stories could benefit from a Dan Carlin style historical perspective? First of all, Dan Carlin's awesome. I absolutely love how he tells a story. Let's see. I don't know. Some of the Old Testament stories, I think something like Exodus would be fantastic with that. Let's see. Would I react to kings and generals of the Civil War? At some point, I've done so much Civil War content. I don't want people to get weary of me focusing on big general videos of the Civil War because we've done a lot of those already. I'm more likely to do a Civil War video if it's focused on a particular individual or a particular topic or a particular battle to go in depth more on those things. Do I think Citizens United versus the FEC will be overturned? Unlikely, but never say never, I suppose. Who's your favorite prophet? Yours is Elijah. I like Elijah a lot. Let me think about that one for a minute. I think Elijah is a great answer. Maybe Isaiah, Jeremiah. I see a lot of myself in those people. My favorite Old Testament story, though, is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the reason why is there's something very specific that is said in that story. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, this is the fiery furnace, if you're not familiar with the Bible. The story goes that King Nebuchadnezzar creates a gold statue and demands that everyone worships it when the music plays. And when the music plays and everybody worships the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who are advisors to the king, refuse to worship it. And they're threatened with being thrown into this fiery furnace. And when they are facing their imminent deaths at that, what they say to Nebuchadnezzar is what I absolutely love. They say that our God is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. And then they say, but even if he doesn't, we are still not going to bow down and worship the statue. And I love that. I love that. First of all, that recognition that sometimes people stand up for what they believe in and it doesn't end happily for them. Sometimes people stand up for what they believe in and they die horribly for that. In fact, that's usually what happens. And their recognition that, yes, we believe God can deliver us, but we also recognize he might not, and that's okay. Either way, you're not going to get us to do what you want. You will not have power over me. You will not influence me by threatening to kill me. And I love that story in the Old Testament. So Messi or Ronaldo, 100% Messi. All right, back to our friend from Turkey. Oh yeah, I think did I already click on that one, or did you just say it twice? Either way, thank you again, and I definitely hope to meet you down the road. We need Oversimplified to hurry up. So was the last Oversimplified video the one that came out in January, or because I know they had the Punic Wars? Yeah, it's been a long time since they came up with one. AC Dragon Rider, yeah, they would see death as martyrdom. But also they wouldn't want to die, just as anybody who's a martyr would say, you know what, I'm willing to die for my faith, but I'd rather not. I don't think anybody, for the most part, wants to die as a martyr. Occasionally it probably happens. And Zach Friday, you're 100% right when you say that I was disappointed that Grok did not say Natalie Dormer would be the perfect actress partner for me. Outreamer, when I'm talking about my friend JD, I'm talking about my friend JD Hewitt, who has the channel The History Underground, not JD Vance. Okay. First live stream I've caught. Keep up. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate that. Help me through some real rough times. I hope things are better for you. You know, you'd be surprised how often I hear from people, hey, your channel helped me through a difficult time in my life. And that means a lot to me. Having been through some pretty difficult times myself in the last couple of years, I know how important that is, and I know how meaningful that can be. And I know it can feel weird because in most cases we have never met and will never meet in person, though I've gotten to meet a lot of you, and it's been awesome. You do still feel like you know a person, right? And even some of you, even though I've never seen your face, even though you get to hear me and see me on a screen, but I don't get to do that with you, I still feel like I've gotten to know some of you who have been active and long-term on this channel. So I understand why you would feel that way about me. And I hope that you understand. And people in the chat, I know some of the people in the chat who have met and spent time with me personally, hopefully they'll say this as well, that what you see on the screen is who I am. I try to be as authentic as I possibly can on the screen. So if you feel like you're getting to know me, you are getting to know me for who I am. I'm very open and honest about things. I get accused of this occasionally, and I don't want you to think that this is true. I don't pretend to be something I'm not for the sake of the audience. I don't say things I don't believe because I'm afraid of what people will think. I'm cautious at times in what I say because I know how easily people can misunderstand things. And I have been accused of saying things that I absolutely did not say because people have misinterpreted things I've said. So sometimes I'm careful about how I word something because I know in an audience of 500,000 people, everybody has biases and everybody hears things the way they think they were said. So I try to be as clear as I can at times. But yeah. So yeah, I hope you understand that I am who I portray myself as on the screen. Would I ever get a dog? No. And here's why. I love dogs. Love dogs. Would love to have a dog, but because I travel so much, it would be unfair to a dog for me to have one because I'd be constantly have to put it in a kennel for weeks at a time. And that's just not fair. I know my kids would love to have a dog. I would love to have a dog. Grew up having dogs, and I love dogs, but now probably not. Vashek, thank you for saying that. Vashek is somebody who's become a good friend through the channel. Has been on a bunch of tours. Just was with Vashek in September in England. Favorite basketball team is the Cavs. Favorite food for breakfast, Captain Crunch. I don't know if I have a favorite dog breed, but labs are great. I love labs. Okay, let's see. Justin, ni hao from China. Justin, you know I've talked before in the comments. English is tied to history. As you know, British royalty spoke French for several generations. And influences today. Garment from French is considered higher level than clothes from German. Yeah, and there are a lot of words like that where we have the word that's closely associated with French because French so heavily influenced the English language. So yeah, English today is an amalgamation of German and French and all of those, but it's still a Germanic language at its base. Would love to see how somehow dive back into Ottoman Empire. Yeah, we'll take a look at some more Ottoman history for sure. On the floor, what would your subject be? I don't know what the floor is. Maybe somebody can mention in the comments. I'm not familiar with what the floor is. Silver Wolf says it was great to talk to you in Dublin. Yeah, we had an awesome time in Dublin. There were so many people and we had to hang out outside, but it was great. On the floor, you and a competitor take turns identifying pictures that are shown to you. You're both on a chess clock, and whoever's clock hits 0 loses. Okay. In that case, the American Civil War would be my subject. Who do I think will win the college football championship? I would have to put my money. If I had to pick somebody, I'd still say Oregon, but I hope Ohio State beats Oregon. So I'm rooting for Ohio State, obviously. Would it be accurate to call English a Creole language from the standpoint that it's influenced by other things? I guess, sure. Why not? Assyrian history is something I'd like to cover more as well. I have a friend who was born in Iran, and he's actually asking me about that when I saw him, whether or not I'd be covering more Persian history and Assyrians and that sort of thing. And I definitely would like to. Actually, it was, I think it's Assyrian. Dan Carlin did some Assyrian stuff, and it was really good. Give me a second. I got real lightheaded all of a sudden. I've been doing a lot, getting ready for moving, so I'd like to visit Spain at some point. I don't think the Browns should fire Stefanski. I don't think it's his fault that the roster's a mess. Okay. Mitchell, thank you. I appreciate that. If you're interested in doing a Hollywood history video, check out Disney at War by Matt Draper and how Disney helped the home front. A lot of companies helped the home front and do in all wars, I guess. Didn't want to ask anything specific. Just want to say your videos have helped me through tough times. I appreciate that. And like I said, a lot of people have said that. And I'm glad to be some small part of helping you with that. Did I expect Lichtman to be wrong about the election this year? I do know who he is. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Anybody who says they've got it right and they know the answer and they know what's going to happen, no, they don't. You never know what's going to happen. Canada, the 51st state of the USA. Do I think it's possible? No, I don't. I don't think so. Any chance you're visiting Missouri soon? Yeah, actually. I want to get to the, I think it's in Kansas City, the World War I museum. I definitely want to get out there. Thoughts on H-1B visas? They're being brought up. Not entirely sure. About that. Let's take a look. Oh, specialty occupations. That's historically how it's been done in large chunks of history. I guess I don't have a huge problem with that. There are going to be exceptions to that. There are going to be refugee and humanitarian crises that happen where you're going to have exceptions, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Do I remember the Carlson Cooper interview? Oh, yeah. How could I forget? Very disappointed with how many people in the comments were defending. You know what? I've learned to expect that, unfortunately. It disappoints me too, but I've learned to expect. We live in an age right now where there's a certain percentage of the population that whatever the mainstream opinion is, they will automatically, by default, take the opposite. Whatever. So if the mainstream says that Winston Churchill is one of the heroes of World War II, then they're automatically going to say then that means he was the villain, just because they think that mainstream equals bad and wrong, and it's government keeping you from knowing the truth. And that seems to be the default position for people. Have you made any of the dishes from cooking for with history? Not yet, but I plan to. And the first one's going to be, it's going to be that stuff from the Colosseum video. That stuff looked really good, and I definitely want to try it. And so Undead says, why weren't you my history teacher? Well, I haven't really been anybody's history teacher, but that's the kind of thing I would do. I mean, I don't think you could now because of all the nut allergies and things, but I would love to do something like that, like teaching about the Civil War, bring in some hardtack for people to try. Those experiential things, I think that's a great way to teach history. I love that. When we were in, I was, my friend JD and I were part of the American Battlefield Trust Teacher Institute in New Orleans this summer. And we went to the World War II Museum, and they brought out all of this equipment, some of it real, some of it replications. And so like we got to wear a World War II gas mask and put on, like armor and things like that, and try these things out. I love that experiential type of history. You're our history teacher now. Yeah, I guess so. I do have a large classroom now. Gamer person, thank you. Have you ever considered watching the Kaiserreich documentary series? Yeah, I could see doing that. I cover some alternate history occasionally, so I could see myself doing some of that. Glover Fox, you got a new job. Congratulations. That is awesome. I hope it's what you wanted. I hope it works well for you. What's my favorite moment in spaceflight history? Am I familiar with the Krantz dictum from after the Apollo 1 tragedy? Go West Ham. I know who Gene Kranz is, but I don't know if I could tell you what the Krantz dictum is after Apollo 1. But my favorite moment from spaceflight history has to be the moon landing. Not only because he's from Ohio, but just I've said before, I would love to, it happened 8 years before I was born. I would love to have been watching that live on TV. What a moment to have experienced live as it happened. And we'll get to see that, hopefully, if I live long enough, I'll get to see the Mars landing. And that's going to be just as incredible, I think, when that happens. So I'm going to say this because, unfortunately, I have to say this now. Just because you pay for a super chat does not entitle you to have me put your comment on the screen. So don't think that just because you paid a couple bucks, I'm going to put it on the screen if it's something I don't want to cover. And that's happened twice now. Once I did, it won't happen again. Plans to go to East Anglia. I was just in East Anglia in September. I was in Cambridge. Okay. Do I agree with Trump foreign policy? Some of it, not all of it. Just like I agree with some of his domestic policy and not all of it. I guess we'll wait and see what happens. I like the concept of the Department of Government Efficiency. I think it's long overdue. I guess we'll see how it actually plays out in reality. So let's wait and see, I guess, is my approach. But I like the concept of a department specifically. Of course, we're creating another government bureaucracy to weed out government bureaucracy. But, I mean, I guess that's how you do it. I've covered some religious history. Yeah, I've done some. Because religion is weaved all throughout history. So early Muslim expansion, something I want to cover in the future. We've taken a look at the denominational history through the denominational family trees that Useful Charts did, which I think is interesting as well. I have seen Kitty, the boy in the striped pajamas, and that is one of the most gut-wrenching endings to a movie in history. Oh, it's brutal. I don't think I could ever watch it again. Could a two-term president run as vice president? I mean, I guess they could, but they wouldn't be able to become president again. They'd be ineligible. And I guess the question then would become, are they eligible for vice president if they're not eligible to be president? They certainly could not. I mean, they would not be able to take office. Even if they were elected vice president, if they were allowed to do that, they'd have to be skipped over for the unless there's less than 2 years left in the term. So if somebody was vice president and the president died with, say, a year left in office, then that person could inherit. So I guess. Does it say they can't run at all? Let's take a look at the amendment. All right, I'm going to look it up real quick, the 25th Amendment. Oh, I guess we're talking about the removal here. Do I need to go back to, is it the 24th Amendment? No, that's poll taxes. Oh, 22nd Amendment. That's right. All right, so let's take a look at the 22nd Amendment. No person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. There's nothing in the 22nd Amendment that would preclude a person who's been elected twice from being elected vice president. What does the 25th Amendment say? Well, Professor, what? They could do the end around to become president again if there's less than 2 years left on the term. Well, wait, because it says they can't be elected to the office of president more than twice. All right. Actually, I can see it. That is a loophole if you think about it. Because they could be elected vice president and then inherit. Actually, you know what? He might have a point there. Because it doesn't say that you can only serve 2 terms or that you can only serve a maximum of 10 years. It says you can't be elected president twice. So, Professor what? Maybe. I mean, it's possible. That could be a loophole. Ever played Age of Empires 2? Yes. And my favorite Civ would be, oh gosh, it's been so long. Probably the British. But Lightning Fan, does it say in the Constitution that you have to be eligible to be president to run for vice president in that specific way? Or does it only mean like you have to have the residential and birth requirements to be president? Who is the humblest president in the U.S. history so far? George Washington? Let's take a look at the 12th Amendment. No person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president. So what does that mean is the question. So like somebody said, that might require the Supreme Court to get involved. I do not, Kevin, think the South could have won the Civil War, not without European intervention. Yeah, Joe, I think you're right. It's a matter that would be dragged straight to the Supreme Court. 100%. It's gray enough of an area that it would definitely go to the Supreme Court. Which president do you think has not been represented very well in movies or TV? Oh, a lot of them. But of the prominent ones who have been represented well in movies or TV, I would say by and large Lincoln. Because typically Lincoln, until recently, has been portrayed with this big, deep voice when he talks because he's tall. And, you know, he wasn't like that at all. He was very soft-spoken. And quite, well, I wouldn't say soft-spoken, but he had a very high-pitched voice. I'm trying to think of who else. I think the few times I've seen Theodore Roosevelt portrayed has been pretty good. Tom Berenger did a great job, I think, of portraying Theodore Roosevelt. What's up with the drones? I don't know, but I'm not worried about it. Let's see. Hello from Edinburgh. A bit of a random question, but which UK party do you think I would have voted for? It feels like they all suck. Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I don't know enough about them to say. I mean, I'd probably be a Tory guy, right? But I don't know enough about UK politics. But since I am generally conservative in my politics, it seems like that would be the most likely. But in the United States, I hate the Republicans and the Democrat as a party. So I take people as an individual. So I guess it would depend on who was running for parliament in my constituency. I'd have to decide that way. There is a right answer here, Chris. My friend Joe, who's involved in the politics of the UK, says. Okay. Thoughts on Luigi Mangione? He's a murderer, and he should go to jail for the rest of his life. End of story. Opinion on the Calvinist double predestination. I'm not Calvinist, and I disagree wholeheartedly with predestination. Do I believe God knows who is predestined for heaven and hell? Yes. Do I think he predetermines that? No. Thoughts on Mormon archaeology in the Americas. What is Mormon archaeology? You mean like archaeology that tries to confirm what the Book of Mormon says? Because I don't think that really exists, does it? What is your favorite song from American history? Yankee Doodle, Battle Hymn of the Republic, 1,000%. Love Battle Hymn of the Republic. One of my favorite songs, period. George says, do I have an ancient coin collection? I have one ancient coin. Somebody sent me a coin. I think it's from the 3rd century Roman Empire. And I love it. Love that coin. I would love to have more, but I don't so far. Hello, longtime fan. Used to be libertarian. Can understand your plight with Mr. Wilson. Your favorite animal is squirrels. Very cool. My favorite animal is cows. Emperor Emerald, thank you for that. What do I consider my weakest area of history? Definitely East Asian history, probably African history outside of Egypt, like sub-Saharan African history. And East Asia. Know very, very little. It's a big hole in my history knowledge for sure. Ever coming to Norway? I would love to. I definitely want to get to Norway and Sweden. Oliver Cromwell, a monarch in all but name. One of my ancestors signed his death warrant, or signed the death warrant for the king, and was one of Cromwell's not only relatives. Cromwell's an uncle to me. I'm descended from his sister. But he was a monarch in all but name. Mr. Beep, I have watched Tick History. I got to say, the few videos of his I've watched, I've disagreed with his conclusions. At some point, I'll cover one of them. Fellow Ohioan, Canton. No, you're not far away from me. I'm only about an hour or so from Canton. Very cool. Jammy Jam Jars. Want a good show on the Trouble. Say Nothing. I actually almost started watching that the other day. I think as I'm moving and I'm packing up boxes. I've been watching stuff a lot, but that's one I want to sit down and actually pay attention to. But yes, I want to check that out for sure. That looks really good. Thoughts on the potential TikTok ban? I can tell you this, James. My daughter's really concerned about it because she's got quite a following on TikTok and she's very close to being monetized on TikTok. She's got TikToks that have millions of views, and she's concerned about it. I hope they can come to some resolution with that. Thoughts on David Lloyd George? Don't like him. Do not like David Lloyd George at all. I think he undermined his own military in very harmful ways late in the war. Do I play any musical instruments? Yeah, I play guitar, I play piano, and I play trumpet. Okay, let's see. Catherine with a K. Hi from Yorkshire. Have I heard of Horrible Histories? Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. When I get some extra time, I'll do a couple of Horrible Histories reactions and upload them to Patreon. It's the only way I can do it because I can't upload them to YouTube. What part of Yorkshire are you in, Catherine? I've been to York. That's really about it in Yorkshire. My friend Joe, who you might have seen in the comments, he's from Yorkshire as well. He's a Leeds fan. A reaction about Johnson's Great Society or John Birch Society in the Cold War channel. Yeah, at some point we could cover some of that. Where ex-Praetorian Guard, I actually have an entire video on the channel talking about everything I remember about September 11th. So if you watch that video, I covered the whole thing, all my memories from 9/11. I haven't watched Witchfinder General yet. I need to check that out. Somebody asked me earlier, and I didn't pull it up on the screen, but somebody asked me about my favorite non-history YouTube channels. I'll cover that in just a minute. I'm actually almost caught up with the super chat. So let me catch up on the super chats real quick, and then I'll show you a couple of my favorite non-history YouTube channels to wrap up this stream. We've been going almost 2 hours now. Catherine, you're from Leeds. Okay, so the owners of Leeds United live 3 miles from me. And my friend Joe is a big Leeds United fan. So real quick, let me catch up on the super chats, and then I want to show you guys some of my favorite non-history channels on YouTube. I've ever seen the drama series 1864. I've watched a little bit of it. I would definitely love to watch more of it about the Danish-Prussian War. Homeschool and you're using Tasting History Cookbook. That's awesome. I love that kind of experiential history. That's a fantastic way to teach history. That's cool. Good for you for doing that. What do I think of Virginia outlawing gas cars production? It's the way the world's going. Europe has already done that. They've got a deadline. No more gas cars. As somebody who drives an electric car, I'm not too worried about it. I love my electric car. Absolutely. I love the fact that I don't have to stop and buy gas anymore. And I don't do it necessarily out of great love of the environment, though I think we should be good stewards of the environment. I just love the car, and I love having an electric car and being able to just pull it into the driveway or into the garage and plugging it in when I get home and not having to worry about gas. I think there will be other concerns that we have about that with the grid, and and here's the thing that people don't like to talk about. People who say they're driving electric cars for the environment, you're still getting that electricity primarily from the burning of fossil fuels. So either way, it's being provided for by fossil fuels. So okay, let's see. American Nerd, someone suggests that the Interior and Energy Departments, along with the EPA, should be combined into a Department of Natural Resources. Thoughts? I think anything we do to streamline the government is a good thing. So I'd be okay with that. Ni hao. What do I have against Thomas Jefferson? It's mostly character driven for me. Same stuff with Woodrow Wilson. I don't like Thomas Jefferson. Declaration of Independence is brilliant. He also owned a lot of people, but so did a lot of other people, and I don't necessarily speak out as harshly at them. I think Thomas Jefferson was a bit of a hypocrite when it came to his politics and how he operated. I think he was very underhanded in how he dealt with his political opponents. And I've talked about a lot of that in the past. I think he was a very flawed man who had great aspects to his character, like a lot of great men who were very flawed. I think the UK made a mistake with Brexit. I'm not there in the UK. I probably would have voted for it if I had been in the UK. I'll leave that up to the people of the UK to decide. I think a lot of people in the UK feel that way strongly. But I don't know. It seems like the UK economy is doing okay from the outside looking in, but I could be wrong. How do I see the chance that Mangione would get a not guilty verdict by jury nullification? Unlikely. It's possible, but I think the prosecution is going to be very mindful of that in the voir dire process, in terms of they're going to look at every aspect of those jurors and do their best to make sure that they weed out anybody who might be tempted to do that. But somebody could slip through the cracks. I could see that happening. Unlikely, though, I think. Heard people say Trump could be a tyrant. I don't care either way, but I want to know how that would be possible. It's not. I mean, there's certain things he can do with executive power, but all presidents have done that. I mean, look at Biden with pardoning all the federal death row inmates, or commuting the sentences, I should say, not pardoning. Some would see that as a great abuse of power, but no, there's certain checks in place that he has a lot of power with executive power, but there's a lot of things he couldn't do as well. Okay, let's see where we're at. Favorite football song. I don't know a lot of them. I mean, I know some chants. My favorite like UK football chant, or like something that is sung at games, is "The Lord's My Shepherd" for the West Brom. It's, first of all, being a Christian, I love the fact that the 23rd Psalm gets chanted at games. So they say, "The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me beside the quiet waters by." I love that. That's my favorite. Can you talk about the Battle of the Crater in the Civil War? Yeah, I want to go to the crater and do some videos on site. I don't think it had a huge impact on the siege, other than it was an opportunity to maybe break the siege that was blown, but I don't think it extended it in any way. What do I think of immigrants as president here in the UK? It doesn't matter where you're born. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that. I understand why that policy was implemented. I think I'd probably be okay with a change to the Constitution. I don't think it would ever get changed, but someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, I got no problem with him being eligible to run for president. He's been governor of California. He's lived in the United States the majority of his life. He's a citizen. He's been a citizen for decades and decades, but he can't run for president because he wasn't born a citizen. So I would be okay with changing it. If you kept, the residents, like if you want to say, okay, somebody has to be a citizen and a resident for 14 years or whatever the residency requirement is, I'd be all right with that. Well, in American Nerd, I'm not necessarily passing judgment on whether Arnold was a great governor or not. I'm just saying that someone with his background, to me, I'd be okay with running for president. And John Reedy, I agree that the crater was Meade's worst command decision of the war, 100%. All right, let's see. If I should react to Biographics video on Wellington. Yeah. I don't know if he's underrated. I might argue he's overrated. That's just me, though, but we'll see. Yeah, I'll definitely do that one sometime. I got to see his birthplace in Dublin when I was there. Brandon, what's going on, my friend? I love to diss on Joe's Leeds, but I can't do it. I have no loyalties there. We need to get you a team over in the UK. Recommendations for books about the World War II African campaign. I've never read any, so I can't recommend one, but maybe somebody in the comment section can recommend one. Favorite beer would be Guinness. I actually don't like beer. I prefer whiskey, mixed drinks, but I do like Guinness. Guinness would be one of the exceptions to my not liking beer policy. All right, and last one, and then I want to get to the last thing that I talked about we would do. Brandon says you'd rather end birthright citizenship than keep the natural born requirement. I agree. I'd be okay with that as well. The only way I could see the U.S. becoming a dictatorship would be if a large chunk of the military decided they should be in charge. Yeah, like a Praetorian Guard type of situation. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Oh, we got another one now. What's your take on Putin? Will the war end with him still alive? Unlikely, but maybe. Will he stop at Ukraine? I hope so. Yeah, Putin's definitely a dictator in all but name. But all right, let's do this. Let's go to YouTube for a minute here. And I'm going to pull up my subscriptions. I'm subscribed to a boatload of channels, some of which I probably haven't watched in a long time. But let me just go through, and I'm going to actually show you guys who I am subscribed to, and we'll talk about a few of them. Catherine, did you hear you say that I'm I'm a descendant of a bunch of English kings, like a lot of people, like Edward III. My closest relation to a British king is I'm a direct descendant of James IV of Scotland, and through James IV of Scotland, then I'm a descendant of a bunch of English kings, and I have other lines as well, but I am a descendant of Edward III. I'm a descendant of Jasper Tudor, which makes Henry VIII a cousin. But Kitty, I don't get drunk. I can't say I've never been drunk, but I don't set out to get drunk, and I try to all things in moderation, so to speak. But I do like a drink. I'll have a Smirnoff Screwdriver, after dinner. Sometimes I'll have a shot of baby Guinness here and there, or a shot of limoncello, or I had a lot of limoncello spritzes when we were in Italy. But I'm not a heavy drinker, but I do drink. Yeah, John, it's funny you mentioned that, because my sister and I, we're going to Italy next week, and she keeps telling me that she's going to start a YouTube channel called VTH After Dark, and she's going to document all the behind the scenes stuff of our trip. Of course, John, all too well about our experiences in casino. Oh, and there it is, Brandon. All right, I'll tell the story for those who don't know, and then I will get to these subscriptions. So after our group tour was over in Italy, like 8 of us stayed on to do kind of an after tour, and we went down to Casino and visited the Monte Cassino battlefield and the Abbey, and then we went to Pompeii. And the night that we were in Casino, we went out late, and Joe, I think it was Joe. Joe, what was the name of that whiskey? Do you remember what it was called? Joe had me try this alcohol, and I don't remember. It was like a really ridiculously high proof, but it didn't taste that strong. It was really, really, really strong that didn't taste that strong, and you know how dangerous that can be. And it was late that night. It was like at 11 o'clock at night. It was a Yellowstone bourbon, Yellowstone 181. Okay. So it was Yellowstone 181. So it was like really, really strong. And I tried it, and it just kicked my butt, like instantly kicked my butt. So they were messing with me. They had me like doing all the presidents backwards. I named all the English monarchs from William the Conqueror to the present. And I was wearing a hoodie that night, and somebody put their sunglasses on me, and I put the hoodie on, and I looked like the Unabomber. And I'm going to see if I can find the picture, because it's on Instagram. I'll pull up the picture on my phone. And so I was feeling pretty good, right, after having that. And Then we were walking back to our hotel. It was after midnight, and there was a big, I think it was a Sherman tank in the middle of Casino. And dressed like the Unabomber, I climbed the tank. I'm looking for the picture. So it would have been after we went to Casino. So let me see here. Here it is. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, but I'll try to pull it up for you the best I can. There you go. There's me dressed as the Unabomber on a Sherman tank in the middle of Casino, Italy. That was that night. So that when people talk about VTH After Dark, that's what they're talking about. It's stuff like that. They were Matteo's sunglasses. So Matteo was actually from Italy, and he was there with us. Did I do Guns and Chips standing on a chair? I don't remember that, but okay, I guess so. I'm taking this horse by the reins, make her red coats, rid of her blood stains, and I'm never going to stop until I make them drop and burn them up to scatter the remains. Watch me engaging them, escaping them, enraging them. Yeah, I did that. Okay, that makes sense. No, Casino is spelled with 2 S's, Mr. Beep. Casino. And Monte Casino is the mountain in the middle of it. So this is why you should all come on these group trips. That's right. We have spots available for the next group trip after Egypt. All right. Let me pull up my subscriptions for you for a second here. Let's see. So I got to add the screen here. Here we go. Yeah, Shiloh tour is coming for sure. All right, so here are my subscriptions. And they're in no particular order, but this will show you some of my favorite non-history channels, and I'll highlight a few as we go along. So most of these are going to be history. Zealand, I follow a bunch of Football Manager YouTubers. So Zealand's one of those. Zealand Live, another one. So this guy here does travel videos. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's done some cool stuff. I don't know why. You know, occasionally my kids watch YouTube on my subscription on the TV downstairs, and they subscribe to channels that I don't subscribe to. So I don't know why I'm subscribed to Vanity Fair. I think Magic by Michaela is another one that my daughter probably subscribed to. Let's see. Wrexham AFC, Ed Sheeran. Yes, I think West Brom should push promotion, but it's going to depend on who our new coach is. Mystery Scoop is, I think that's history. Yeah, it is. Greg Laurie, I like him. He's one of the few preachers that I follow on YouTube. The Way of St. James pilgrimage. Oh, that would be so cool. You know, I was talking to Martin Sheen when I was hanging out with Martin Sheen. And yes, I recognize how that sounds when I start a story with when I was hanging out with Martin Sheen. But when I was hanging out with Martin Sheen, I talked to him about, because he starred in a movie that was written and directed by his son, Emilio Estevez, called The Way. And I love that movie. And he's so proud of that movie because his son wrote it and directed it. And he's very proud of his son. So yeah, that would be really cool to do. Yeah, I like David Starkey. Name dropping much. Yes. What else do we got here? Hard travel, because I haven't been on any cruises and I probably won't do any anytime soon. But when I was married, my wife and I were really into cruises. And so we watched a lot of hard travel videos. Finding Gina Marie, they're actually fans of Vlogging Through History. That's how I found out about them. They were commenting on some of my videos. So that's where that came about. Planet 412 is my ex-brother-in-law. Not really stuff that I'm into, but if you're into like supernatural and like stories about Bigfoot and stuff, he covers a lot of that kind of stuff. Let's see. Walter's World. And Walter's World is another channel who he is subscribed. I was actually watching one of his streams. I think it was his stream when he hit 1 million subscribers. And I did a super chat and he goes, oh, vlogging through history. And he pulls out his phone and he goes, I'm subscribed to you. And I thought that was really cool. That was kind of a fanboy moment for me. It was cool to see a channel that I'm a fan of say, hey, I'm a fan of your channel too. So that was pretty cool. Let's see. Sam's doing stuff. Sam's a friend of mine. We've done music together in the past. I used to be the opening act for his band when he was playing different places. So he's got a lot of cool stuff. If you're into seeing people like do yard work and do building projects and different things like that. Ben Foster, the cycling goalkeeper. He used to be the goalkeeper for West Brom. Then he played for Wrexham. He's really cool. I actually don't know how I'm subscribed to Daniel Television. I don't really even remember that channel. Let's see. Pompey Observatory is fun because my son and I are really into like using our telescope and doing like photography through our telescope and stuff like that. Let's see. You'll notice some of these are history channels I haven't reacted to, and I will at some point. Adventures with Purpose. That they do some pretty cool stuff. They do a lot of diving. Would I do a stream while watching a West Brom game? I guess I could, but I don't know who all would be into that. Tommy Johansson used to be the one of the guitar players for Sabaton. Let's see. Ryan Macbeth is another one. I'm not sure. I don't remember subscribing to him, so I couldn't tell you about his channel off the top of my head. Most of these you can see are history. Travel with a Wise Guy. Yeah, I've followed a lot of his travel stuff. Since We Woke Up is a friend of mine, Tawny. She actually was our media person for Rachel's Challenge for a while. Her main presence is on Instagram. I think she's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. Katie Sackhoff, I've just been a fan of her. She was in 24. Hillbilly Files does a lot of great stuff, like from Virginia and Kentucky and West Virginia, and they do a lot of Hatfields and McCoys, which is cool. Prince and Princess of Wales, I'm a big fan of the British royal family, some parts more than others. Justin Moore does a lot of like stuff that's geared toward YouTubers to help you with like your channel and stuff. American Nerd, actually, I talked to Martin Sheen about some of the stuff they went through doing Apocalypse Now. He had a heart attack during that, I think, if I remember right. Footy Adventures is another channel I like. There's a couple of channels I follow who they go to a lot of football matches. So Footy Adventures is one. Away Days is another one. Magic Geekdom, I like them. They're an American couple who spent like 6 months living in the UK. So it's cool seeing them like live. Like one of my dreams, I've traveled to the UK quite a few times. One of my dreams long-term is I'd like to go over there and spend like a month in the UK and just live in the same town for like a month, get an Airbnb and just, instead of traveling all over, just experience living in a place. And they did that. And so I follow that. Dale Earnhardt's podcast. EECC Travels, they're another couple that does cruises and stuff. So I haven't watched a lot of their stuff lately. Dale Jr., I knew I liked this guy. John Reedy says, let's see, Expedition Bible. He does a lot of biblical archaeology. And if things calm down in the Middle East, I'd like to go over and do one of his tours sometime. Kara and Nate are probably my favorite YouTube travel channel. Really love them a lot. CJD, I think you have to do that to really get to know a place and to learn some of the lesser known stories and have a home base, but still travel out. Like, so I could see myself staying in Oxford, but still going to Wales for a day trip or going to the Cotswolds and, those kinds of things. I don't know the Outdoor Boys, not familiar with that channel. Who else do we got here? That's non-history. Uh, Just for the Weekend, Van Life. They're another channel that they follow vlogging through history, and that's how I got to know them. It was through them supporting this channel. Preston Goes. He does a lot of camera reviews, so it's mainly why I watch his channels for that stuff. Let's see. Tom Wilson, who's the actor from Back to the Future. I just like his stuff. Yeah, Yes Theory. I do like Yes Theory. Starter Story. That's another one that I think I follow just because they do a lot of stuff for YouTubers. Tom FM's another football manager YouTuber primarily, but he does some travel stuff too, like visiting games in other countries and stuff. Jared Owen, I think that's history. Jay Foreman, you guys have seen me do that. The Daily Drop, that's a side channel of Kara and Nate. Sean Stockman was in Boys to Men. I think he still might be. So I just like him from that. Liam Roberts does Wrexham content. Twirl Pros is my ex sister-in-law. I don't think she's been posting a lot of stuff on there, but she's one of the, like, she has coached like world champions in twirling, like baton twirling. Mark Bennett's Camera Crisis, another one where he does like camera reviews and stuff. Let's see. Tours by Foot does walking tours in London, and my friend JD, who you just saw comment in the channel there, is doing walking tours of places now. You should check out his walking tour channel. Awareness by Daryl Scott. Daryl is my friend who I work for with. He founded Rachel's Challenge. His daughter was killed at Columbine. He does like poetry and stuff. Let's see, who else is not history? St. Martin in the Bull Ring is a church in Birmingham that my family attended. Film Booth is another one related to making YouTube videos. Smarter Every Day has some really cool stuff. There's Indy Nidell's personal channel, Rachel's Challenge. Warlord Games is miniature gaming. There's Brett Goldstein, who played Roy Kent in Ted Lasso. What's Up Fandom podcast. I think What's Up Fandom was one of the first podcasts I ever did an interview on after my channel started growing. Ava Rowland is a country music singer who lives down in Nashville, and I met when she was in high school because she raised the money to bring Rachel's Challenge to her school. And when she started doing music, she was giving like 10% of her music sales to Rachel's Challenge. So I'm a huge fan of her as a person, but also her music. Elon Musk. That's actually not Elon Musk. That's somebody else's channel. And I'm not sure why I'm subscribed to that. My daughter started all these channels when she was thinking about doing other stuff like writing and dolls and drawing and vlogs. And I don't think she ever did anything with it, but those are her other channels. Jovita Theron Stigler is the, I think, the daughter of Franz Stigler, who that famous story of No Bullets Fly from Sabaton, where Ye Old Pub was escorted rather than shot down. Franz Stigler was the pilot, the German pilot, who refused to shoot down the B-17. That's his daughter's channel. George Luz Jr., who is the son of the guy from Band of Brothers. I think that's most of them. I don't know what. Frigid VR looks like it's one that my son. Oh, that's my son's YouTube channel, actually. He changed the name of it. I forgot. That's my youngest son, Eli's channel. And then Gory Gaming 24601 is my daughter's channel. She doesn't really do anything with it anymore. So there you go. Did I ever watch Hacksaw Ridge? Yeah, absolutely. Love that movie. All right. We did have a couple more super chats, and then we're going to wrap this up. I've never had Metallica's Blackened Whiskey. I'll have to check that out. Rank my top 5 Marshalls. I couldn't do it off the top of my head, but when I did the video on Marshalls, Napoleon's Marshalls, I kind of gave my opinion on that. I couldn't do a UK Prime Minister tier because I don't know enough of them. Maybe I'll bring my friend Joe on sometime and have him do a tier list of UK Prime Ministers. O'Care, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Drake, thank you so much. I am excited about 2025. I think 2025, in addition to 25 being my favorite number, I am excited about what's happening in 2025. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it being a great year for me personally, but also for the channel. Yeah, I have done the story of how I got into Rachel's challenge, but I don't think I did a dedicated video to it. I think I probably did it in a stream. Yes Theory, yeah, I am a fan of Yes Theory. And last one, Patreon member here. Love all your hard work. Do you have an organization I would recommend for tours about the Vietnam War? I don't actually. Maybe somebody in the chat could recommend something. I don't know. But personally, I don't. But that's not an area of history I'm really deeply knowledgeable of either. So, but thank you for that. Brandon, bring you and Noe on. I know that history too. Joe will agree. Yeah, so that's probably the way to do it. I have to bring you guys on sometime and do something together. That'd be a lot of fun. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys so much. Probably not going to do another stream until I'm in the new house. So it'll be at least a couple of weeks. Well, once I'm set up in the new studio at the new house, definitely more frequent live streams coming. So thank you guys, everyone. And we do have a Discord server that is for people who have signed up through as members and as patrons. It makes it easier for us to manage by keeping it small, not trying to be discriminatory to people who can't support through Discord, but it makes it manageable. So check that out. If you sign up through Discord or through membership or through Patreon, you can get the link for that and we can check you out there. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. Best of luck to you in 2025.